Hello everyone and welcome back to another Skyrim challenge run. This week we have our first viewer submitted run. This is Can I Beat Skyrim with no items in survival mode. So I've never actually played survival mode, so this was an interesting experience for me. What this necessarily entails is it means we're not allowed to use any weapons, armor, potions, lockpicks. We're not allowed to use powers. We're not allowed to use spell tomes. I did allow myself to use gold to buy stuff like a horse and to buy cart travels, just because without it I probably would have gone insane just because of how long already was spent in this run running back and forth. But anyway, let's get into the run. I make a Khajiit for the run since they do bonus unarmed damage, and since we're not going to have any weapon, we need all the help we can get. And they also have some cold resistance, which is going to be useful for the survival aspect of the run. Let's do a quick rundown of what survival mode actually means for anybody who is not familiar with it. Survival mode removes teleporting and also adds the need to sleep and eat, and also adds a debuff for being cold. And basically, since I am not allowed to eat or drink as I would be using, or eat as I was using items, I will permanently be suffering a lot of the debuffs that you get in survival mode that do stuff like prevent or lower your max stamina, lower your max magicka, and the cold can eventually kill you, or at the very least lower your max health for fights. So this is going to be fun. I decided to make a beeline for Bleak Falls Burrow, as there's basically no reason to go to Riverwood first. And I also just sprint through the dungeon basically till the end. This is because I want to try to preserve stamina, as we only have a certain amount of time in the run where we will actually still have a stamina bar before it is gone for good, as we cannot eat to refill it. The boss dies rather fast, as Khajiits do high unarmed damage, which is very comparable to weapons this early in the run. On the way out, we pick up our first unique to survival thing. We go over and grab the Lady Stone. Now, normally this isn't super useful, as it just gives health and stamina regen. But in survival mode, your natural health and stamina gen is greatly reduced, so this means we will actually still have some passive healing, so we will be able to do stuff like hide behind rocks and cry till our HP comes back up if needed. Riverwood is next. We get the quest to go to Whiterun and turn the claw for gold. And while I can't buy items to use or gear for the challenge, I did decide to let myself have stuff like a horse and cart ride, as I stated in the intro, just so I don't fling myself off high Hrothgar in real life. We make our way to the palace, and it's first dragon time. To be honest, during this fight, I just kind of sat back and let the NPCs handle most of it. This is honestly how we deal with most of the dragons, since they can turn me into a cat kebab in a couple seconds. By this point, the negative stamina penalty from not eating is starting to hurt, and it's not much longer before we don't have any stamina for the rest of the run, which means no sprinting and no power attacking. Yay! I do buy a horse on my way to High Hrothgar just so I can scale this cliff, since I have to make this trip like 7 or 8 times in the run, and without the horse it would just be so long. I do get to show off a little bit of the majesty that is Skyrim horses. They must be bred with mountain goat in them or something. Our screen is also permanently red at this point from the negatives of survival mode, and also gets blurry. Yay! By the end of the Greybeard talk, we are completely out of stamina, and since I can't use items for this challenge, it isn't coming back. So we're stuck walking everywhere and not power attacking. I make my way down the mountain just by sliding off most of the way down. At this point, I decided for my sanity and your viewing pleasure, I would go download a mod to remove the red screen and the blur. I'm sorry if this bothers you, but this video would have been an awful watching experience if you had to watch it bright red and blurry the entire time, and this run is already going to kick my ass enough. We are off to find the horn, and at this point I get my first death of the run, which is due more so to my stupidity than the challenge itself at this point, but trust me, it gets great. Horn is gone, it's back to Riverwood and to meet Delphine. Next is the Kynesgrove dragon fight, and oh boy is it a sign of what's to come. I try to help, but the fight is taking place in a cold area, and my health is slowly lowering to the point where 2 or 3 ticks of fire would kill me. I have to basically hide until Delphine can kill it, which is not so easy for her either. It takes her quite a while to actually get it down. Eventually, though, it does go down, and we do move on to the party. Alright, let's talk about this. Now, technically, we fail the run at this point. We have to put the clothes on to get on the cart to continue the story. But this is one of those things that a lot of these runs would fail for reasons like this, or having to use a shout for specific parts in the story. To make it interesting, I always consider this stuff as stuff you have to do, so there's no way really around it. So in my opinion, it doesn't break the run, but if you think it does, feel free to say we failed the run. We do take the clothes right off as soon as we get to the party, though. Gotta let the fur breathe, you know? As a complete 180 to our dragon encounters, our superior claw damage is plenty enough for normal NPCs. When I go back to save Melbourne, I accidentally suplex him instead of the Thalmor agent I meant to sneak attack. Oh well. It's off to get Esborn, and I was curious if you just go right to him without having to help Brynjolf, and you can, so that's something new I learned today. I did heavily consider getting the Gloves of the Pugilist while down here, since it kind of fits the theme of being unarmed and stuff like that, but I didn't want to bend the rules for it, and who knows, maybe we'll actually do an unarmed run at some point that maybe goes through a bit more of the game, whereas this is more of a trying to speed run before I pull my hair out kind of run. Off to Alduin's Wall, which is as easy as always. You can kind of just slip right into the cave and not have to deal with the Forsworn out front, and there's only a couple inside. With the Blades part of the story done, we make the trek back to High Hrothgar. I think we have to do this 6 or 7 times throughout the run, and it gets real quick. We get the shout to clear the way to Parthenax, and boy does our Khajiit looks like he wants to be anywhere else right now. I was worried about this trek going into the run, as you can die in survival from being too cold for too long, but seems like you can make it to the top of the mountain just fine, and it isn't cold enough to kill you. You just get close. We meet Parthenax, then slide our way down off the mountain to chase an Elder Scroll. Okay, up in a Winterhold, the cold is a serious issue, and since there's water under the way to the cave that Septimus is in, we can die really fast here. Thankfully, with the power of horse and parkour, we get there without freezing, and honestly, I might have been more worried about this run than I should have been. I was really worried about the cold coming into this run and how hard it would be to get places, but it hasn't seemed to have been that bad. Get the lexicon from him, and now it's off to Blackreach. Yeah, remember how I said the cold wasn't bad at all? Well, the universe heard me, and I died on the way over to Blackreach. With a better pathing and actually warming myself up before going over, shock, it's not actually too bad to get to the dungeon. Okay, so the dungeon itself was rough. The Falmer do a lot of damage, and even if I can kill some of them in 3 or 4 shots, they still shred me, and I'm basically trying to pull them one at a time and rest after each fight to heal. I do get cocky towards the end and run past some of the Falmer and get myself stuck in a corner. I try to fight my way out a couple times, or just run past them, and nothing seems to work. I then think, okay, maybe I can get them stuck if I go back and forth through this door here, and I enabled a death loop. Well, no problem. I load back a save that I made while hiding in the corner whenever I first discovered this problem. Welp, whenever I try to reload this save, it would crash the game. Yeah, this is what I get. So now I have to go back to an earlier save. My last save before this was all the way back in Winterhold, so now we have to redo the entire dungeon. Hooray! After that fiasco, though, the rest of the dungeon and Blackreach itself was very tame, so we grabbed the scroll and we're back up to Parthenax. In all seriousness, I have never appreciated fast travel so much before. It took me nearly half an hour to get back up to Parthenax. I was also worried that when I read this scroll that I would die in the cutscene, since you're basically immobile for a long period of time on top of the mountain. But apparently they turned off the weather there, so it's perfectly fine and we don't die. Alright, now it's time to fight Alduin. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This fight was impossible. Parthenax does not do enough damage to kill Alduin by himself, so we can't use that tactic that we used earlier. I can't hit him enough to actually kill him due to him hitting me with claws, breath attacks, whatever. He doesn't stay aggroed on Parthenax long enough. I also can't do some damage, back out, and then go back to hitting him because I need to dodge meteors the entire fight. My health regen's super slow, and my max health is constantly being lowered by the cold effect. I try this fight over and over and over, but I don't even think I got him below 75% HP once. After hours of attempts and getting absolutely nowhere, I more or less believe that this is not possible with our restrictions. You'd either freeze before you could actually back off enough and heal to get back in there. Parthenax doesn't tank long enough. Parthenax can't do enough damage to kill him. So we're going to have to make an exception for this part of the run. I have 100% failed the run at this point, but in the interest of seeing how the rest of the run would have gone, I get some potions and come back and finish the fight so we can go through with the rest of the game. Now is time for the second most annoying part of this run. Tons of traveling. Hooray! We have to go down to Whiterun, back to High Hrothgar, over to Solitude, over to Wilhelm, and then back up to High Hrothgar. And for all this traveling, we are awarded the honor of the Long Peace Council. Hooray! With that pain done, I honestly think I would have rather done another hour and a half of slamming my face into Alduin. We head off to Whiterun to trap us a dragon. One Uber to the final dungeon, and it's go time. We clear out the dungeon, and in an attempt to not get brick-walled by the Dragon Priest, I attempt to beeline right for the portal. I'm pretty sure we got through at the last possible second. Not having stamina here is a real kick in the butt. We get the heroes as per usual, and now I'm scared for the final fight considering how bad the last one is. However, we do have more people this time, so maybe it'll go better. It went way better. It still took me a couple of tries, but eventually the NPCs held the aggro long enough for me to just rush him down. This was about as hard as I thought this run was going to be, but it wasn't hard in the places I thought it was. I thought more of the survival aspects would lend into me failing the run, and while definitely some of them did, I was much more worried about the cold killing me than stuff like not having stamina and just the impossibility that was that Alduin fight. This is our first fail of the channel, and man, it stings, but I could not find a way to pass that Alduin fight. After finishing the challenge and giving it a day, I even reloaded back to a save I made before the Alduin fight and tried it again for a little bit and still couldn't get it done. But with that, that's going to be the end of this week's challenge. I want to thank you for coming out. If you have any challenge suggestions, I'd love to hear them below. Next week will be a Fallout 4 challenge. It might be out a little bit later than normal because I've actually never played Fallout 4 myself, so it's probably going to be a longer video and a lot more of me just running around and enjoying the game. But it should be fun. We're going to be playing Fallout 4 as a melee stealther, because what makes more sense than Skyrim with guns than to not use guns? We'll get more into that challenge later, but I do appreciate you for coming out. And despite this being a fail, I hope you at least enjoyed my clothless Khajiit running around attempting to claw dragons and getting crispified.